Hey, as I've told you in the past, I'm a retired financial advisor. So, as well as real estate, I still keep pretty active in the financial markets. And like you probably have heard that the market was going to slow down. In fact, I was first alerted to that by Harry Dent. He told me because of the baby boomers retiring that the market was going to collapse in 2016. Well, Harry was wrong, and it hasn't happened. But nonetheless, that drove me to the Peter Zyron and the accidental superpower. And that taught me even more about demographics and convinced me even more that something was going to happen. Um, I also read and I'm not going to try, I guess it's K. Fu Lee, of how China was going to become a very dominant world power. And so, being confused, I said I need to do some more deep digging. So, um, I went back to where I kind of started, and that was with Peter, and tried to figure out what exactly is happening and how it's going to affect the financial markets. And that's what I want to share with you today. I have heard that the international markets are slowing down, and I have heard that we're set for a recession, but it isn't happening. And so I want to share with you what I've found, and then you can come to your own conclusions. Again, I'll say that I relied on Peter's wisdom for a lot of this. So let's take a look at it. Now, for any economy to function properly, you have to have consumption. That is to say, you manufacture goods and services, you have to have somebody to consume them. For it to then thrive, you have to have investment. And that takes us to demography, how your population is distributed through the age groups. This here is an example of Mexico's demography. And as you can see, it forms almost a perfect pyramid. On the bottom, the first 20 years, you have children who are basically dependent upon their parents and are consumers. Their parents are consuming a lot of goods to feed them, clothe them, educate them. The next element, 20 years, is those from 20 to 40. These are your earners. They are there and consumers. They need to buy everything to take care of their children and themselves. They buy their first home, they buy automobiles, they buy clothing, they buy everything, and they drive the economy. The third level, that is from roughly 40 to 60, are your people who are reaching their peak earning years, and therefore they are your savers. And as a result, our economy has grown as the wealthiest generation in the history of mankind has reached this 40 to 60, the boomers and some of the Generation Xers, and they're the investors. And that's why our economy is going so strong, and Harry got it wrong, is that there is so much capital available as the boomers are investing for their retirement that it is driving the cost of capital down, and the investments are going crazy. And that's what's basically kept our economy going, in conjunction with the fact we have the millennials, then again a large population, who are the consumers. So that's what's keeping our economy going. Now, back to Mexico's chart. The interesting thing here is, as we look at the world economy, Mexico is a perfect partner for the United States. They are not big manufacturers, but as you see, they have a perfect demography. They have a lot of consumers. They don't compete with us for manufacturing. In fact, they complement us. So that's why you've seen that Trump has kind of got off of his rage about Mexico. He still talks about them coming across the border, but they have become a strategic trading partner because of their perfect demography. Now, to our northern borders, we have Canada. a totally different situation. Take a look at their demography. As you can see, in the 70s, Canada had not a baby boom, but a baby bust. And therefore, they don't have the lower part of the demography. What this means is they don't have consumers. You can see they have the higher end of it, and so they have the retirees who are again making Canada capital rich, much like the United States. So their companies are thriving, but they don't have anybody to consume their products. So what do they have to do? They have to export everything they make, and thus they become our competitors. They become a problem to the United States. And if you'll remember recently, Trump put a tariff on some of the goods coming out of Canada, and much to Trudeau's upsetness, even Trudeau making some derogatory comments about Trump recently. And we now understand why, because Trump recognizes that their demography is wrong and they are a competitor. And we don't want competitors, we want partners. This is Japan's demography. Again, you'll recognize that the bottom is not filled out. They had a baby bust as well. Now, Japan's answer to the question is not to outsource because they don't have workers, but it's to desource, and that is to say they've turned to robots. Japan leads the world in robot manufacturing. But because of the smallness of their island and the high cost of real estate and everything else in Japan, they have literally gone out and built plants in other countries, mainly in places like South America and Africa, and used their robots to manufacture their products. This becomes very viable because robots don't vote and they don't sleep. So they are very productive. They don't vote against your administration, and it becomes a wonderful solution for Japan. Again, though, it is not a good solution for the United States because they now again become a competitor. They don't have the people to buy the products that they manufacture, so they become a net exporter. They become competition with the United States. Again, this is why Trump is initiating tariffs to make the prices of their goods higher so the United States can become a manufacturing nation again. Now let's talk about the elephant in the world, China. This is their demography. You'll see there's also a shortage of young people. This has a lot to do with the one-child policy that went from 1975 to 2015. The other thing I want you to notice on this graph is we have the females on the left-hand side and the males on the right-hand side. Notice the imbalance. There are far more males in the younger population than there are females. The other thing you need to recognize is that it's going to get continually worse, because if you've ever seen any pictures of manufacturing in China, you'll recognize that the plants are filled with women. They go out into the rural areas and they bring the women in, put them in dormitories, and they do the manufacturing. They have learned that if they bring men in and put them in dormitories, they have a huge problem on their hands. They have violence, they have disruption, whereas with the women, they just do their work and are happy to go home when they want to. My question is then, are they going to let them get pregnant? I don't know. This is a huge problem. What you're going to see also in one of my next videos is this is not China's real problem. China's real problem is debt. They have nobody to sell their goods to. Trump is making it more difficult to get their goods into the United States, and so they are literally making goods that nobody is using. You've probably heard about the shopping centers, the apartment complexes that they build and no one houses them. They're anticipating a growth in their population, but look at the demography. It's not happening. I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see a decentralization of China. I think we're seeing the first part of that in Hong Kong. You're seeing an uprising. They're working real hard to put it down, but I think it's just the beginning. You've got Hong Kong, and they've still got problems on the far other end of their country in Tibet. So China is the elephant in the country or in the world, and it's going to create some real problems. Now, this is the demography of the United States, much more balanced. We have a bulge, again, the baby boomers, and that's what's making our country so capital rich right now. These are the people who no longer have children at home, they are downsizing, and they have capital to invest. And this is what has driven our economy and driven interest rates so low, because we are filthy capital rich. Now, the issue then becomes in 2022, 2023, when the average baby boomer starts to retire and the leading edge of the baby boomers start to die, that money comes out of the investment market and seeks safer investments, T-bills and CDs. Therefore, now we still have an urge to invest because we have technology is driving our economy forward. But what will happen is, because the baby boomers have taken their capital out of the markets, capital will become much more expensive. You can expect in 2022-23 for the cost of capital to quadruple. What does that mean? Well, if prime rate right now is 2%, it's going to be, what would that be? 8%. That's pretty much the historical average. If you then come to borrow money, you're going to pay prime plus. So you can see that corporations who are very heavy in debt are going to be strapped, because their cost to service their debt is going to escalate. Now, the next thing that it all enters into this is the millennials. The millennials are our consumers. They are what's kept our economy going and being consumers for the last 8 years. And that will continue. They will continue to consume. They will upgrade their homes. They will get better jobs. They will continue to drive our economy. Those bring us three things. They are consumers, and they will keep us out of recession for probably 4 more years. Until 2030, they will be our taxpayers and thus support the government. Now, the other thing you need to recognize is every other of the Western civilizations had a baby bust. This is the demography for the rest of the manufacturing world. And you'll see they all had a baby bust. This is without the United States present. So this is why you're hearing that other world economies are slowing down. If you look at it critically, you can see it is basically they are turning into an old folks' home. What can you draw from this? Our economy is going to continue to grow probably for the next 3 to 4 years. Then we're going to have some issues to face. The world economy is going to continue to slow down. Trump is going to continue to take us to more of an isolationist. We just don't need them anymore. In the areas of production, we are going to become a manufacturer again. I'm going to tell you in the next video how the steel industry is going to make its way back to the United States, how we are going to pretty much dominate in the United States the automobile industry as we make it more expensive for other countries to bring automobiles into us. And we have already become oil independent. We're going to explore those things in my future videos. For this time, though, this is our economy today. It is going to be the world order is going to be disrupted, and if Trump continues into his second term, you can expect this to accelerate, not slow down. So if you want to keep up with the rest of this, subscribe to my channel, like this video, it helps my algorithm, and ring the bell so that you're notified when I come up with the next videos. Thank you. This is very interesting.